This video has been uploaded by Truthseeker on YouTube.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are here, and once again, it is our great pleasure to be in your reality. So you've had a few hours to sleep on things, to chat it up among yourselves, and to consider the information and the energy that we are presenting you with. You've covered a lot of subjects, a lot of data, all absolutely necessary. And you've done well. You're still here, you're laughing, you figured out that a good laugh really opens you up, and let's say without being disrespectful at all, laughter, or being able to see the cosmic humor in things, frees you from being stuck into some sort of inevitable doomsday scenario. And of course, the globalists, or whoever they are, and they have many names and many guises and many players, their agenda is to confound, confuse you, to cull you, to eliminate you, but to eliminate you slowly so that they make a lot of money on you through, let's say, ridiculous practices of called medicine. And so to see through this paradigm is absolutely essential. Do not develop fear, hate, anxiety, resentment. These are worthless. If you ever feel this way, observe it and say, is this really, really the best attitude for me to have? And you can always do your best to go back to neutral and say, this is interesting, or this is very interesting, or this is overwhelmingly interesting, or I don't really like this, but for some reason I must experience it, see it, and there must be some purpose to my being exposed to whatever it is. There's always a purpose to everything in everyone's life, whether they believe it or not, whether the person is completely isolated from civilization, living in the Stone Age, or whether they are on Wall Street or in Hong Kong in the high rises running finance. Everything happens for a reason. When you operate with good intentions, when you are in your integrity, when you have very good boundaries, which means that you do not suffer from nice-itis. Nice-itis is a disease of being in the body, discomfort. Nice-itis is afraid of saying no. As soon as you don't know how to say no, you are screwed. Because that means you will not call a bucket of shit, shit. You might say it's a vase of roses. And there are many people who get that mixed up, even though they are distinctly two different things. Remember this. If it smells like shit and it looks like shit, it's manure. And manure can be turned to fertilizer. So you can use something that's not so pleasant to help fertilize and grow your mind in awareness. But don't call the manure roses. Know the difference. Grow up and accept that you are living in a world of contradictions, of contrasts, a world that is going through a tremendous transformation. And within this process, you are going to encounter stories that are unpleasant. You are going to have to uncover things that you don't want to look at. It's not negative. Negative is when you start to put out hate, when you start to act hopeless and condemn. That's negativity. When you hurt another. But if you do not allow yourself to discuss what is going on, and if someone says, this is negative, we can't talk about this. Whose voice is that? How do you think leprosy was healed? Because people say, that is negative, that's ugly, let's run away from it. No, there was a priest named Father Damien or some such, and he took the lepers on an island called Molokai in the chain of islands called Hawaii. He was very compassionate. He looked at the people whose flesh was rotting and horrible, who the public ran away from for centuries. He decided to help in this darkness, in this ugliness. And so we use this analogy so that you can understand the larger scheme of things. As you start to uncover and recognize unpleasant situations, there may be people who call you names or who say, you are lowering the frequency, let's just talk about good things. That's escapism, that's denial. And if you are going to want to escape from knowing the stories, the fullness of them, the good and the bad, then you are going to lock yourself in your own hell of mind control, because you only want to see the good side. Once you volunteer to find out about what's going on, observe your response to what you are finding out. If you can accept the fullness of stories and say, aha, this is not pleasant, however, I am now more informed about the general picture, and now I will go cook a good supper. If you do not want to know, then you will be stopped in your tracks, and then you will be very befuddled, because you'll not want to know the whole story. You'll move into denial. Denial creates confusion. Eventually you become sick and delusional, and people move away from you because you do not want to know. And this is what's happening generally in the world. Why do you think there's so much entertainment? You have 24 plus hours of entertainment every day all around the world. It is to keep people from thinking. You have to think. We've said that long ago, many of you are here to witness. You are here to participate in unique historical occurrences. But like any point in history, the players do not know how important their era is. Yet you've all gone to school, you've studied history, and you study about Napoleon, or you study about wars or achievements or discoveries, building, architecture. You discover, you read about these things, and yet when the people are doing them, they do not know that they are making a historical marker necessarily that will be referred to hundreds of years down the road. Your point in time will be referred to across the lines of time for millennia. It's just that you are in it, you are at the party, and you look around and you say, is something going on? When is it going to happen? It's all happening now. And it's magnanimous in its energy to change not only your world, but to ripple out across the lines of time, and as we suggested yesterday, to ripple out into the Anunnaki empire, their colonialism. You know, the Anunnaki, those who from earth, or those who from heaven to earth came, that is their translation, they operate with the caste system. And if you look to perhaps England, you have somewhat of a caste system. You have the royals, yes? Then beneath the royals, or within the royals, you have the aristocracy. Then you have what's called the gentry, landed gentry. And then you have the folks, yes? You get the categories. And even though people say it's sort of a benevolent democracy and we have this and this and this, the hierarchy is still there. If you go to India, for example, the hierarchy is absolutely extreme. And there's no meritocracy. Meritocracy is you work, and through your efforts, you raise your status in a society. This is Europe, most of Europe, North America, etc. India, what you are born into is where you are. If you are born into the untouchables, it is impossible, because the caste system holds you where you are. That is, let's say, an extreme example of the Anunnaki system. And it was Inanna, the granddaughter of Enlil, great-granddaughter of Anu, who was given the Indus Valley and eventually was given India. The Indus Valley is now known today as Pakistan. Perhaps that's why you are in Pakistan, fighting wars. Enki was given Africa, and Enlil was given Mesopotamia and, let's say, Jerusalem, what you call the Middle East. And these designations from long ago, the ownership is still there. The family fights over who has control, just like any family on earth that was not getting along would fight over the inheritance, would cheat each other, would hurt each other just to gain supremacy in the family. We hear stories about this all the time. The matriarch or the patriarch of a family dies, the siblings are left. They are like roosters in a fight. They would destroy each other, cheat each other just to get a few more $1,000. Or get a few more of this, a few more of that. That is the Anunnaki psychosis. The Anunnaki suffer greatly from what you may call mental disturbances. And as above, so below, they have transferred their problems and their askewed thinking onto their delegates. Sometimes their delegates are selected. They are humans that represent them on the planet. In ancient past, they were called pharaohs. They were called kings. They were called demigods. If the Anunnaki mated with the humans in recent times, as we said yesterday, it was verboten long ago. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when it first happened, it was the big sin, the big crime for the visiting extraterrestrials, the Anunnaki, to mate with their workers, their creation. And then worse, the construction workers, the Igigi, from Mars, mutinied. They came to Earth and they said, if you head gods can have sex with the earthling lovelies, you cannot deprive us on Mars. We are your big workers. And this is where you get the story of the bad angels coming down to have sex. They found the daughters of man comely. Well, rightly so. Women, earthly women, have a certain allure, and that is quite wonderful. But this is the source of many of the problems and the confusion. And again, you get to this idea of angels. Are there good angels? Let's say that the Anunnaki have a very clever way of tricking you, of having you think that something is all benevolent and nice when it's really part of their police force, their interdimensional police force. To be truthful, the human race, large majority of you suffer from naivete. Extreme naivete. And then when you get naive, you want to get into denial because it is difficult to bust those certain paradigms, and you become over-affiliated with concepts. And if those concepts turn out to be chocolate that just melted into a different shape, sometimes humans get mad because what they thought was true has no validity. We've seen it. Our vehicle has seen it. She deals with it a little bit more than we do. We deliver the information and then people often act out with her. We give you this bit of a soliloquy here because it's coming big. And they're just ahead, on the verge, around the corner of very, very big, shocking events. You will not be shocked because you will be prepared, but you still will have to have the reaction in the body, because the nervous system will have to take the brunt of the change. Even though the mind may understand the possibilities of what's coming, the body still has to integrate the data along the nervous system. So what you will be working with throughout the summer moons is to not only enhance your immune system, but by eating well, sleeping well, hydrating, this kind of thing, taking the additional supplements that may strengthen the body, good thoughts, writing down your intentions, all of this. But your nervous system has to go to another level. So look to different practices that would strengthen the nervous system. You have Mr. Bach. He's called Bach in the United States, but he was, we believe, European man, and he created the Bach flower remedies. These are very subtle energies, and they work to strengthen the energy field and the nervous system. It's very important. Essential oils work on the subtle energy level. There is an Ayurvedic tradition, an herb called Gauta Kola. It really is a premier nervine. And what you want to focus on is do a little research and find out what are the substances that relax the body and strengthen the nervous system. That is what you are going to need. Understand that all technology weakens the aura, weakens the body, weakens the nervous system, and creates brain fog. No one is immune. No one. And you don't want to lose your noodles or your clarity. This is a big lifetime. Don't screw it up. But have a good time. Actually, we are going to mandate you, that's a little clever word there, but we ask you, please, to have the best time this summer, to do things that put a smile on your face, to be highly creative, to restore joy in your life, to reach out and to have genuine relationships and talks with people, to socialize, to laugh, to love those that you love, to build up a strong connection of happiness and goodness. This is going to be needed as part of your strength. These things sound simple, but if you do them, you will be in better shape than many people will be once the autumn quarter or late summer begins to unfold. What is the number today? Is today the solstice?
Yes.
Today is the solstice. All right, remarkable. This is wonderful, because this is the height of the sun, and this is a peak day of the year, a turning point. And so here we are, by the seaside, Malahide, just outside of Dublin. And why are we in Ireland? Let's talk about Ireland a bit. We said yesterday that the giants, some of the giants of old, the old Atlantean giants, when the polar ice caps were causing problems about 13,000 years ago, the Anunnakis knew that something big was going to happen. And let's say that the Anunnakis sometimes pretend that they are innocent of things that they are instigators of. It could be that 13,000 years ago, that the melting of the ice caps and the great flood that later occurred was instigated in part by the Anunnaki in their own foolishness. Just as today, the global elites operate with weather manipulation techniques all over the globe, and in their stupidity, they have ruined the wind, the air currents, and the earth is in complete turmoil. And then they say it's all climate change and it's coming from someplace. It's all, much of it is coming from their own psychosis. And the craziness of the gods, the Anunnaki, is mirrored in the people that they use as their changelings, as their representatives on earth. The Anunnaki do not come down in general and mate with the humans today. Some, but not like it was before. So when they place people in charge, the people that they put in charge of their cross, of their colonies, are those who either have Anunnaki blood, and it can be tracked, and perhaps you've noticed in the last 10, 15 years that there's suddenly this desire or this calling to say to people, click on this and you can track your ancestry, and if you send us a DNA sample, we will tell you what's in your DNA. And people are doing this, and it's coming back, and some people are being told that they have Neanderthal DNA. And then lots of people are reporting that when they do this, they get a 4, 5, 6% that is sent back to them that says unknown origins. Unknown origins on your DNA sample is code for star connections, foreign DNA within the human genome. Those who have Anunnaki footprints that are more prevalent than others, this is how they are tracked. And people at this time want to know the genetic makeup of the people on Earth. The ETs want to know. And so they assign humans to gather this kind of data. You are surveilled, you are watched by many, many beings. Those who want to test you and who utilize machines to track you, they are weak in their own psychic abilities. There are others who do not need machines, they do not need to track and test your DNA. They can read your DNA, read your energy field. Understand that within the heavens, there are all kinds of beings, and they're not all equal. Some are highly skilled in one area, others are ignorant in that area. We said to you yesterday, the Anunnaki are supreme builders. Builders, that is what they do, they build. They can take anything, materials, and make large structures. Tunnels, buildings, pyramids, stones, you name it. And they know how to have things last for millions of years, because they live millions of years. This is important to understand. It's also important to understand that we said yesterday there's more happening right now beneath your feet inside the earth than there is on the surface or in the heavens. And because of some secrets that are going on in world governments, they've been over many decades now detonating nuclear devices underground. And you've probably asked yourself, when you have a free moment, to wonder, why would they keep bombing nuclear devices underground? They say, oh, we're testing. How many times do you have to let a bomb off to test it? Right? It's like a kid with a box of candy. If you don't delegate how many pieces, the kid just keeps going. But that's not the way it works with atomic bombs. There's been a war going on beneath your feet. And those who have submarines, all the beings who operate, all the countries who have submarines, they're always after the ETs that are in the water. So know that you share your planet with many life forms. You always have. There's always been a wide variety of life forms that have lived here. The human form, as you currently understand it, is one model. And this model has been in its own phase of development, probably since the melting of the ice caps, what you call the flood, Noah's flood. Noah is also known as Utnapishtim. Noah is, let's say, in some stories, Noah was given, God spoke to Noah and said, build an ark. If you go back to the Sumerian records, you find out that the god who spoke to Noah was Utnapishtim. And it appears that it was the god Enki, the devil god, who spoke to Utnapishtim. And he didn't speak directly to Utnapishtim because the council said, it looks like the earth is going to flood. We'd better get out of here. And they decided not to warn the humans as they met in council. Remember, we said they meet in council for years, in your terms. 300 years, 1 month to them. They forbade everyone to warn the humans that there would be a big flood. But Utnapishtim, Noah, appears to be a son of Enki, because Noah was known to have the shiny skin, the skin with scales upon it. And it was considered to be a badge of shame to have the reptilian energy within one, because the two brothers, Enlil and Enki, were always fighting with one another, upstaging one another. Enlil took the role of God, one God, the supreme God. When it comes to what's going on this earth, this is Enlil, I am the commander. Father in heaven, that sounds a bit familiar, religious, doesn't it? Our great Father in heaven, Anu, gave me his son the command of earth. Not you, my half-brother Enki, you are the devil. You are so much the devil, you have reptilian skin. These are ways of interpreting. So, Enki does not want to get in trouble with his father, Anu, with his brother, the one god, Enlil. So he says, he talks to a hut. And he says, read hut, read hut. But Utnapishtim, or Noah, is inside the hut. But he doesn't tell Noah, he tells the hut. He says, hut, hut, there's going to be a big flood. You better do something or you're going to be swept away in the flood, hut. Rather simple way to trick, yes? He broke the law, but he could say, I didn't tell my son, I told the hut. Sounds like a bit of trickery. So Utnapishtim prepares. And as you were growing up and you heard this story about Noah's Ark, you had to wonder how Noah could get the pairs 2 by 2, not to eat each other, or bite each other, or fight each other, and walk in pairs into the big ark. And how could he possibly provide enough food for them? And then what about all the manure? And what about the restless animals being tossed around in this big boat as the earth floods for 40 days? 40 days. The Anunnaki use numerical assignations. Anu is 60. Enlil is 50. Enki is 40. When you see these 3 numbers, 60, 50, 40, it's code for those members of the Anunnaki. You will find 40 throughout the biblical scriptures, and 40 is sort of laying the blame on Enki. Jesus wandered for 40 days of the flood. You'll start to put things together. We know some of you are quite brilliant with numbers and letters and things of this nature. So, the flood's coming. And it's not that it happens in an afternoon. There's warning. And the Anunnaki have many of their own kind here, their own giants, in addition to the human workers, the Lulu, as they were called, the first making of peoples. When they built the human creature, the hybrid, so to speak, they called the first creation a Lulu. So the Lulus were not told, but the others were, the giants. And the other workers around knew that this was coming, and they took off. They said, we know this is going to happen, and they migrated to the various openings, the tunnel systems that led into the center of the earth. Now, these openings are not here, there, and everywhere. There are areas that are easier to open into the earth, and the Anunnakis always had technology that today you call telemetry. Telemetry is a type of technology that allows one to see inside the earth. So for the last number of decades, the satellites up in the heavens by the Earth-oriented governments have been peering into the earth to see where structures are, where openings are, and looking at buried cities and what was here from long ago. And then they cordon these areas off, or they have wars, and they make sure archaeologists do not go there. Nonetheless, there was a big opening that many beings ran to, and that was an opening that was in the Far East, in Mongolia. Mongolia is north of China. And you have China, which is about the size of the USA. Then you have Mongolia. Nepal is in there, where the quake was recently. And then north of that is Soviet Union. In the Nepal region, in western China, the Anunnaki retreated and built their homes inside of mountains. The gods like to hang out in the mountains where they are inaccessible. We're talking the high-level gods now. So it is one reason why the forces in the military are always going into the Hindu Kush. And there's all kinds of reports, and have been for years, about the UFO bases that rim northern India, that rim Nepal, Tibet, etc. Sometimes these areas are attacked by forces that create quakes to destroy what's underground. The humans are simply what they call casualties of war. So, long ago, 13,000 years ago, some such, lots of beings migrated into the openings inside the earth. Some went into the openings in the Middle East, the near Middle East. That would be Jerusalem. This big opening up in Lebanon, because there is a big spaceport in Lebanon. It is called Baalbek. It did survive the Great Flood. It was one of the few structures that survived the Great Pyramid as well. But there are openings to the center of the earth, wherever these giant structures exist. There are ways to enter in. The structures are markers on the surface in addition to having a certain purpose. And so as beings attempted to get into these openings, they were shut off. So they migrated over to Mongolia, where there's big opening to get into the earth. Some people talk about Agartha, Shambhala. It's all legitimate, but part of it is myth and legend, a little bit of hocus pocus here and there, but the underlying story is true. There are openings to the inner earth worlds. The flood occurs. Of course, the entire globe is not covered with water. It's not possible. But many areas are deeply flooded. And the waters rise and rise and rise. And so this lasts, the whole rehabilitation does not take place in a month or two. Remember, 1 month to the Anunnaki is 300 years. So sometimes when they are talking about 40 days, it might be 40 of their days, not 40 of yours. Does this make more sense?
Yes.
Plus, if you look back at the ancient patriarchs referred to in the biblical studies, many of them lived thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. That showed you they had the Anunnaki bloodline in them, but not enough to live millions of years, but just enough to live long enough so the Anunnaki didn't have to replace a new mayor or governor every 100 years. It wouldn't work for them. They needed some people to live much longer to maintain their empire. It's all falling apart now because you can see no one lives long enough to really do that. It is deteriorated. So, over thousands of years, some of the giants then began to resurface. And we said yesterday, some went west, some went east, and eventually the red-headed giants of old migrated. They were pushed here into Ireland. It was their last stand, so to speak. And you wonder, how could the giants be defeated by smaller people? Well, smaller people can run in and stab, and size does not make so much difference in this situation. And they were able to overcome them. And the giants had, some of them became cannibalistic. This happened all over the world. The Native American people in the western part of the USA, the Anasazi, the Hopis, the others, many of them had stories about people coming out of the ground. The Hopis spoke of ant people, and that would be little people that would be in the ground. The big ones who came out, they came out to feast, to eat. But eventually cannibalism will drive someone insane. And so the giants that were eating, they were cannibalistic, they lost their mind. They created their own demise out of their own misuse of energy. The giants that moved here to Ireland, as came across Europe and eventually settled in Ireland, they were tamed by that point. Oh, you had some ferocious ones, but basically they left you with a gentle type of hospitality. And in Ireland, there's the history of the Celts. And what's left to the Irish people are remnants of something from long ago that connects you to the grounded 3D world and the magic of understanding multidimensionality and how beautiful this earth is and how interactive it is. So Ireland today plays for us a role of the host country to bring the people of Europe together, those who are interested, to understand a larger story. Ireland is considered to be neutral ground and safe haven. The people of Ireland have struggled throughout time under the suppression of the church that wanted to wipe out any of this pagan type of connection. And yet the Irish held strong. And so there's something in this land that's going to offer to the world some very interesting artifacts, perhaps, some appearances, some recognition. And that is why the role of Ireland will play a very hospitable part in helping to raise people's consciousness. You know, the land, wherever land you are on, it has karma. The land remembers. It is why people go back to battlefields and they go to clear them, to help those who have died to rest in peace. There can be restlessness in certain areas. Sometimes humans can visit and they get sick visiting someplace. Sometimes they visit someplace else, they feel exhilarated. Ireland offers a certain exhilaration. Be grateful and offer your thanks to this land, and you will be surprised at what it will offer back. All right, these are some points we wanted to cover. Now it's your turn. And we wait your questions, but please ask something that everyone can benefit from. And we'll go for it. Who would like to start this afternoon's discussion? We'll start on this side over here. And who has the question?
Hi, Pete.
This video has been uploaded by Truth Seeker on YouTube.